Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing an updated Q&A. I've not done one of these in ages. I have put a Q&A box onto my stories. I also asked in my Align archive group chat, and I've got loads. So I'm going to set a timer for half an hour and let's see how many I can get through in that time. If you're new here, hi, I'm Faye. I'm a UK-based wedding photographer. YouTube is my space where I show up and I try to bring value so that no matter where you are, what your resources are, you can access helpful information from somebody that's out there doing it. In the beginning, and YouTube was a massive source of inspiration for me and education. The one thing that I didn't like though is how hard it was to actually find out anything of value. I feel like you have to sieve through so much useless information to get to the nitty gritty stuff. So it is my mission to make sure that any information here is gatekeeping free. Of course, anything specific to you, like one-to-one, that would be an investment, but this is generic, helpful stuff that's going to help hopefully everybody, no matter what stage you are at in your photography career. So let's dive in. Okay, hi mate, just wanted to pick your brain on pricing. I'm thinking of having one main package at around 2,500, which includes everything plus a choice of either a second shooter, some film coverage or a couple shoot. Then for smaller bookings, maybe $250 an hour with a minimum booking time. What do you reckon? Okay, so first of all, your base price, there's so many different things that come into this. How much you want to make a year, where you're working. So for example, if you are working just local weddings, it's a lot easier to lower your price because you don't have the overheads of staying over, transport, second shooters, blah, blah, blah. But if you are going to do bigger weddings further away, then that's obviously more of a consideration. So it's really hard to give anybody advice on what their base package should be. However, there are some really, really good cost calculators that you can use that take into account things like tax, how many weddings you want to do a year, and all that jazz. Pop one below that I think is really good from Josh Huggett. I think you have to sign up to his education mailing list. The second thing I wanted to say was if you are figuring out an hourly coverage. So when it comes to pricing packages, I always recommend that people only have two packages. One all-inclusive, which is like the whole day, a set number of hours. So usually it's 9 or 10 for UK wedding photographers. If you want to have one shooter or two, you would put that in there as well. I have two because even for the smaller weddings that I do, they're always quite high budget in terms of details and stuff. So I know that I don't want to be rushing couples, blah, blah, blah. But most people start with just one shooter, but have two if you know that you're going to want two. As a general rule, the hourly package, I would say always do a minimum of 2 hours because it's never just 1 hour. And think about what your day rate would be, your minimum day rate that would get you out of the house, because it's very likely that it's more than 10%. So for example, this guy that's messaged, he said 2,500, $250 an hour, which if he's doing 10-hour packages, one shooter, that's what he would do for 10 hours. But it's not the same amount of work, is it? It's more because you've still got the clients. So as a general rule, I would divide whatever you're charging for the full day by 10 and then add £100. So if you are charging 2,500 for 10 hours, 250 would be a tenth, and then you'd add it so that it's 350. I would then say a minimum of 2 hours because it is never just 1 hour, and 700 quid for a short shoot. It's a really, really good day rate. It'll cover your fuel. It would cover a Premier Inn if you wanted to get a Premier Inn. It's a really good day rate for a couple of hours work, but that's the thing, isn't it? It's never just a couple of hours work. But yeah, you never want to be undercharging yourself and just doing a tenth, because otherwise there's no incentive for people to get the full day. If you really want to minimise how much you're working because of your situation, then you want to make your hourly rate even more unappealing so that people go for the full day. So you might do £500 for an hour, or what I do now. So my current UK rate is 6k, and I say 1,500 for 2 hours, which is more than what 10% would be. And then additional hours are an additional fee. But depending on what they've put in their inquiry, I might say that 2 hours is 2k. If I know that there's going to be 4 different locations in the morning or whatever, that's a bad example. But use their inquiry form to give you more information, and then you can decide what you want that short coverage to look like. Yes, have something in your brochure that's a set fee, but ultimately you get to quote case by case based on what information they've given you. With things like add-ons, it doesn't really matter what you have included in the package and what you don't, but using something like a pricing guide is going to make it really easy for you to upsell those add-ons. I will include my pricing guide below, which shows how I set it out. All of the templates on the Feywild Education store have not just got examples, but they've also got rationale and prompts to help you tweak it for your own personal business. Another thing, if you've already got a pricing guide, could be the newsletter template. So the newsletter template I send out twice a year to my couples, and in there it's talking about things like additional days coverage, second shooters, film, all of that stuff. But it gives examples and it shares them in a really informal newsletter format so that couples can see the value that your additional services could bring them without it being icky and salesy. And again, that's a template link where there is examples of everything, but there's also advice on how you might change it to be more in line with your brand and your brand messaging. Meg Taylor has asked, can you give me some tips for my first destination wedding? So the first tip that I'd give you is to review some of the vlogs that I've shared, because over summer I was in Italy for 5.5 weeks, and since then I've also done various like long stints abroad, and I've tried to vlog as much as possible this summer. Within those vlogs, I'm covering all sorts from like flights, all of that, like what to pack. There's so much within that it's hard to just summarize it into a 2-minute bit of advice. So first bit of advice would be go and watch the vlogs, just have them on in the background while you're editing. They're all relatively short, and then that will give you tips and tricks as you go through that. Yeah, that would be my advice. On top of that though, I'd just say like destination, it's not the same as normal wedding. It's going to be a lot longer. You do need to have the energy, so make sure that you get there plenty early. I would recommend a minimum of 2-3 days if it's your first one. Try and get a second tutor or someone in your team that's well experienced with like destination weddings. If you need some recommendations, let me know, because I've got an incredible network of really hardworking second tutors. I'm always happy to share them with people that are looking for expanding their team. But yeah, just give yourself plenty of time, and just like destination is so different to UK wedding photography. You've got things like car hire, hotels, travel, building a team. There's literally so much that it would do you a disservice to just say, oh, just try this one thing, because it's so all encompassing. But definitely give the vlogs a little bit of a view, get them on in the background. We're going to literally cover so much ground there that it's going to be really helpful for you. Okay, most effective marketing strategies, i.e. is it social media, paid meta ads, Google ads, or directories? This is really layered, because my honest advice is to just have your fingers in loads of different pies, because you never know where it's going to come from. I've actually just recorded an Instagram video, which I'll link below when it goes live. But in that I was saying like, it's a weird one, because most people will say on your inquiry form that they found you on Instagram, even if they haven't. But Instagram tends to be the place where if they hear of you word of mouth, they'll look up your Instagram. If they see you on Pinterest, they'll find you on Instagram. If they, see a brochure or a directory listing, they'll probably check you out on Instagram. So Instagram, I definitely think, continues to be the hardest hitting place at the moment, closely followed by TikTok. But you can't neglect all of the other things. I'd say make sure that you've got a strong website, maybe invest in some copywriting, make sure your images are up to date. But day to day, I still continue to spend the most time on Instagram, because that's where I get most of my leads. If you are finding that TikTok's better for you, spend more time on TikTok. But just maybe get something into your contact form that says like, where did you find me? And then whatever your clients are saying, that's where you want to be putting your time, I guess. How do you manage dates and couples' expectations when people are interested in the same day, i.e. holding versus not holding dates, first come, first served? So when I get new inquiries, I just treat them like I would whether or not I'd had 5 inquiries for the same date. If I'm free and I want to do it, I'll send them some recent galleries that their inquiry made me think of. If I'm short on time, I've just got 2 that they're like my best ones in my opinion, so I'll just add them on. And then if they want to organise a call, get them on the call. Again, at that point, just see how the call goes. Don't go in there like, I've had multiple inquiries for this day, blah, 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 'cause I think it just sounds icky and salesy. But then after the call, I would always send a follow-up message. And in that message, it will have some more galleries that maybe the chat made me think of, next steps if they want to go forward. And then right at the bottom, I'd just say, I don't reserve dates. It is booking season. So there's no pressure to get back in touch, but just let you know, like, nothing's reserved without a paid deposit and a contract. Here's everything I need to process your inquiry if you want to move forward. And I think that's enough. I really don't like it when people are like on stories, like, just a reminder, it's not valid until whatever. Just build that into your workflow with the couples as you speak to them, because I just think it sounds quite salesy and like pushy when people put generic messages onto their stories, if that makes sense. So yeah, put it in your template for your reply that you do after the call. Another additional step that you can do is when you do your initial inquiry, like, hi, I'm so happy that I'm available. Here's some galleries, here's my brochure, and here's how you book in for a call. You might put an extra line at the bottom saying, if taking a few days to get back to me, please make sure that I'm still available. It's booking season at the moment, so availability is changing all the time. And you could put something like that into that initial template. But again, it's just like a really gentle, like, little thing in the template, nothing too heavy or pushy. So it's a way of communicating it without giving yourself and the clients the ick. Can you give tips for replying to inquiries to get them on a call? As a lot of them, they don't want to go on a call and just want me to send over pricing. Also, similar to above, tips for how to facilitate a great discovery call, please. Yeah, so I think if you're trying to get them onto a call before they've seen your pricing, I wouldn't do that, because I feel like that's just going to waste everybody's time. People want to know whether or not they can afford you before they give up an hour of their time, let's say, for a call. So something that you could do is just have your prices on your website. I don't, because I like to tailor my quotes depending on how many days it is, you know, how many guests they've got, blah, blah, blah. It might be that it's a venue that I'm absolutely obsessed with that's just up the road on a Wednesday in March. I'm like, actually, I'm quite happy to do that for £1,000 less, versus one that's peak a Saturday in June with 200 guests, for example. So now I know that I want to keep my pricing to myself, because what goes into that price is so varied. But if you do want to save time and get people to convert that bit quicker, having your prices on your website will help you. If they don't want to go on a call with you, it's probably because there's a lack of connection elsewhere. It might be that you to them are just another photographer. There's not enough really that's making you stand out from other people that they are talking to. So I'd invest actually more time in showing off your personal brand on your stories. Something that I shared in my course Align Lab was those posts where it's like the first picture is a photo of you, and then within the carousel, it might be iPhone photos, it might be analog photos of things that you've been up to recently. In the caption, you might share a little bit more personality. Try and incorporate more posts like that, so that every few scrolls, people can see who you are, what you're about, and be showing up more regularly on stories. That's what's going to help you to get people on calls. There's no other way of doing it. Like, the only reason people are going to want to speak to you is if they're pretty sure that you're the people that they're going to book. If they're not, that's not an issue with your brochure or your pricing or your website. It's a lack of connection. So be thinking about how you can get more personality and showing off who you are to those couples to make them want to go to the next stage. Same topic, discovery calls. How do you not give off keen vibes? I've had a couple of calls where I'm sure I've given them the ick bit, and I'm sure I've come across as too pick me, which is obviously not good. Okay, yeah, so this is a really easy one actually. I'm like, hi, my name's Faye, it's so nice to meet you. I never know how much research people have done at this stage, how long you've been following me for, etc. So the way that I run these calls, it's really informal. Just ask me literally anything that you want to know, and I'm an open book. And I just put it back on them. If it gets awkward or stagnant, which it very rarely does, because people have normally got a list of questions that they want to ask you, you might say, do you want me to run over how I approach the wedding? Do you want to know like how often I get in touch with you? Things like that. But just ask very open-ended questions. If you come off that call and you've spoken more than they have, that's an issue. You're a photographer. You're there to observe and to take photos. You're not there to take over. So I think it's really important to establish that sort of role of taking a step back right from the word go. Like, yes, we are in control, and yes, we're making sure that the day goes smoothly and all that stuff, but ultimately we're there to take a step back and observe. So we need to be giving our couples the opportunity to show us who they are and what they want right from the word go. Like, I just smile a lot and nod and don't actually talk as much as you might think. Yeah, just like let them be in charge, basically. Okay. Next one is how to deal with imposter syndrome, constantly going on Instagram and comparing myself to other people's work and just feeling really crap all the time at the moment. I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, imposter syndrome is something that every creative person struggles with, I think. Something that really helps me is to mute a lot of other photographers. I don't actually engage with a lot of photographers' work. Even like my best friends, quite often I'll mute them for little bits of time. I'll still follow, of course, their personal accounts, or I might follow their business account off my personal account. But on my work account, I try to keep it to more fashion inspiration, travel inspiration, and other things that's not weddings. Because it's when I'm seeing other people that are in my niche, that's when the imposter syndrome tends to come knocking. So yeah, just keep checking in with yourself. What's happening? What situation are you in when those feelings are coming up for you? And then just avoid that situation. Social media is an incredible tool for our businesses, but it can also be really, really bad for our mental health. Things like not going on in the evening, or only going on social media for little pockets of dead time, like if you're waiting for your coffee or if you're on the loo and stuff like that, rather than when you're in bed and you could waste 2 hours. Because I think half the time these negative feelings happen not just because we're consuming all of this content, but because we feel like we're not being efficient enough with our time. And we feel guilty for like brain rotting and spending so much time when we should be doing other things, and then maybe we'd have X, Y, Z that this other person has. So yeah, anything that's making you feel uncomfy, just try and mute that out of your life and try and focus on what is like unique to you and what you can do, and then hopefully that will make you feel better. Another thing that I'd say that I do as well is I just try to focus on my couples and my audience. I try to not think about other suppliers or photographers looking at my content. So I might show up online, and if I'm ever thinking about somebody perceiving it in a negative way, it's normally like another photographer that maybe I feel like might have beef with what I'm doing or whatever, and that's just so silly. Like on your stories and on your grid and all of the stuff, we should be speaking directly to our clients. They're the ones that are paying our bills. So if the voice of the negative is higher than what you think your clients might be, some work needs to happen there behind the scenes to get you back focusing on what's actually important. When I'm thinking about my stories, how is this going to make my client's day better? That's what I just repeat to myself again and again and again. So yes, the imposter syndrome does creep in, but I just have to make a really conscious effort to put that to one side and just keep showing up and keep trying, because otherwise who's winning? Like, I'm not going to not show up for my clients because I'm worried about what another photographer might think, because then I'm never going to feed my child and, do well at work. So it's not that it doesn't happen for me, it does, but I just really, really try to make the effort to not let it take over, because it would be so easy to do that. Okay, your best advice for new photographers still juggling a full-time job and family life. Okay, I actually did a full vlog on this, which I'll link below, about the juggle, because I was a head of department when I started this job full-time. And I had a 5-month-old when I started photo, and then I was a head of department when I continued building the business, and then ultimately decided to quit and take this and do it full time. But before that, I was also a teacher, so I'm used to juggling a lot of different things. And I'll link the vlog below, which goes through everything that I do really to manage my time effectively, and I hope that that will help you. It's quite a layered question to answer, so I'll link the vlog because that's going to give you a lot more detail. How do you connect with such different guest groups? What's the secret? I don't know what is meant by this. I don't know whether it's like culturally or personalities or whatever. So I'm just going to go through a few different things and hopefully I'm answering the question correctly. But yeah, so in terms of the wedding, every single wedding has got VIP guests, and those tend to be the parents, if the parents are there, grandparents, best friends, and siblings. And then there might be a few like close auntie or whatever, but it tends to be the immediate family and the wedding party. Those are the VIP guests. So if there's multiple days, on the first event, I'll make a real effort to get to know everybody's name. If there isn't multiple days, then I'll just do that on the wedding morning, go through and ask quite a few times, and what's your name? After the ceremony, it's quite rude to ask people what they're called. I feel like by that point you should know all of the immediate family's names, And I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do. Like, I'm literally there in my brain, like saying them over and over and over again, or saying to a bridesmaid, sorry, what was that guy called? So that I don't feel like that guy feels neglected because I've forgotten his name or whatever. So I learn people's names. That's the first thing. And it's so important. I'm really helpful. So I'm not a performative photographer. Yes, I'm there to take photos, but ultimately I want to make sure that everybody's having a good time. So I really just check in with the room, the energy in the space, like how people are feeling. If there's like a really stressful moment, then I might take myself out of that space, because quite often you don't need more energy in a space which is already, you know, full of conflict. Things like if something goes wrong with the dress or whatever, I'll try and help. But if I can see that some time needs to be there, I might go off and try and solve it out of the room so that I'm not adding to the energy in the space. But I'm just very considerate of the energy, very considerate of the people around me. I try to be really helpful, really kind. I'm smiley, I'm approachable. I'm not just snapping all the time. Quite often my camera will be left and I'll just be talking to people and maintaining eye contact. And then I'll go off and take photos whilst I'm still talking so they can see that I'm working hard. And then things like tidying up, not just giving people loads of jobs or expecting people to do stuff, saying thank you, being really appreciative, like being a team player. All of these little things help people to feel like you're really for them. And it comes from a genuine space, because I just want everybody in my presence to feel really comfy on the day and know that they're in good hands. But quite often it's not just the photography that helps them to feel like that, it's all the other things that you're doing as well. Things like I've changed nappies, I've taken a dog out. Like, a lot of photographers wouldn't feel comfortable doing these like odd menial tasks, and that's absolutely fine. I don't care. I'd rather, if like something's gone wrong and everybody's crying because, you know, like the dress is broken or whatever. I've seen it all really at this point. I'm not taking photos, am I? Because everybody's crying. Like, unless it's a gorgeous emo moment. Most of the time in those moments, it's better for you to just get stuck in, help, and then get the day back on track. And then when you are taking photos, people are more receptive to it. The relationships are really, really important to me. So getting guests on just to really nurture those relationships throughout the day. Another way that I do this, and this is mainly for destination or multi-day weddings, but it might be that you've done their legal a few weeks before the big UK wedding. But the sneak peeks, like I always do sneak peeks the same night or first thing the next day. So let's say this weekend, for example, it was a 2-day gorgeous fusion Western and Hindu wedding, but we'd also done a sunrise shoot at a lighthouse. I got back that day, and even though I was working in the evening at the rehearsal, I got back and edited those photos and delivered them before we went to the rehearsal. When we got to the rehearsal, everybody was talking about the photos and how good they were. So it was like such a natural point of conversation, and everybody felt so relaxed because the photos from the sunrise shoot were so good, in their words, that again, that was a way that I got guests on side, because they were happy that I'd made their friends happy, but also they were like, wow, this girl's really good at her job, like she's going to make us look amazing. So yeah, that was that, and that's another thing that I do, I guess. But have you got any tips to grow your network, finding it really hard to make friends within the industry? Okay. Yeah, I do. And I really relate to this, because when I started in weddings, I thought I was going to make friends straight away, and it took me a long time. And that's why I do things like the course and the workshops and stuff now, to kind of like foster that community, because it can be really, really isolating. Put simply, like cold messaging people is not really the way to do it. Those relationships need to form organically. If I think about where I met most of my best friends, it's workshops. Like my best friend, I introduced her to photography, so she doesn't count. But my other close friends, one came to one of my workshops, then associated a wedding for me when I had a hip replacement. A group chat was born between her and the other girl that was covering the wedding with her, because they were on photo. And that group chat never died, and now those are like my 3-girl group chat, and we're like best friends. And that was because she associated a wedding for me. When I think about my photography group chat, it's a mix of attending my workshops. I met them at other people's workshops. But yeah, again, workshops, like so important. And then there's also things like Elevate Photo Conference, which is in March every year. I think it's sold out. Definitely give them a follow on Instagram in case they sell any like waiting list tickets. I've been going now for like 4 years, and it's absolutely incredible. And I always get people coming up to me and introducing themselves and saying hi. But it's quite hard at a networking event like that because it's like an educational day with loads going on throughout the day. But it's quite hard to have like any meaty chats, whereas at workshops you tend to be in the same groups the whole day and you have lunch together. So it's a lot easier to get to know people and chat. And if you've got mutual friends within the group, you find it even easier to expand your network even further. So yeah, definitely workshops, stuff like that. That's going to be really, really impactful for you. And yeah, workshops would be my number one suggestion. How do you make couples feel so comfortable in front of the camera? They always seem so positive in reviews for how you've made them feel. Yeah, this is like not an accident either. So much that I do, but here are just some things off the top of my head. So it starts with checking in regularly throughout the process, which seems irrelevant, but it's so important because they've got that confidence in you that you respect their time and you want them to feel reassured that you're going to turn up, do a good job, etc. I am regularly updating my portfolio, which again seems irrelevant, but that's so important. And what's really, really important with the portfolio is that there's no like bad angles, there's no unflattering photos of people. They're seeing multiple photos of everybody, even the guests in the background. Everybody in my photos, I want them to look banging. Can you imagine if somebody had booked you and then they're seeing photos of like fire exit signs, plugs, like things that should have been removed, really unflattering angles of the couple? It's going to put seeds of doubt in their brain, like, why have I booked this person? Like, that person looks awful in those photos. So regularly updating your portfolio, but making sure that level of finesse is consistent across everything that you put out is so, so important. And then regular communication, again, like let them know when you're in the area, let them know what time you're going to be there. Turn up, don't just start snapping away, get there really early, offer to help if you can see anything, or like don't even offer, just help, be helpful. Focus more on making them feel comfortable than getting good photos, and the photos will come as a result of that. Things like, what's your favourite side? Like, what sort of vibe do you want the photos to be? And then communicate that to them. So, for example, they might be stood there as a couple and you might say, oh no, guys, you've got to swap round because that's her favourite side. And like quite often my brides will be like, oh my God, thank you. She's so good, isn't she? So just listen to what the priorities are and communicate that you've listened. So a couple might say that it's really important to them that they get a photo in front of the bandstand, for example. So you might say in the morning, like, apart from the bandstand photo, that's a priority. Is there anything else that's a non-negotiable for you today? And then just as the day goes on, be like, right, we've got that photo in the bag. From now, it's just going to be completely candid coverage. But anything else that you want, you just grab me. Otherwise, I'll leave you alone. And they're like, yeah, cool. I'll still go ask them if they want flash portraits, but they know that they're in control. And I think the feeling of feeling like you're out of control on a day that you've spent so much on, that's what we want to avoid. Whereas if you're constantly communicating like what you're doing to make sure that they get the day that they want, not just the photos, that's what helps them to feel confident, and in turn they feel good in themselves because their nervous system is calm, if that makes sense. How do you achieve such consistent style across your portfolio? Well, this is a really simple answer. It's just my presets and then the things that I focus on the day. Like, I weirdly say to a lot of my couples when they inquire with me, I'm going to send you some galleries so that you can see just how different every gallery is. The only thing that connects my work is that it represents the couple and their couple vibe. But my galleries, from one gallery to the other, don't look anything like each other. There's naturally things that I gravitate towards, like signs of life, like messy tables, energy, party. And there's some things that are consistent across all my galleries. So like the morning tends to be a lot calmer, a lot more neutrals, white spaces, and then it gets more colourful as the day goes on and into the evening. But in terms of consistency, apart from my edit, the only other thing that I'd say is consistent is the way that I frame my images. I like a lot of natural materials. So if there was ever a backdrop of a mountain versus the venue, I might try and have it so that there's a straight line from the venue and you've got the juxtaposition between the venue and not super obvious. But if you're to look on my grid, there's a lot of natural backdrops. And I'd say that nature is the one theme that runs through everything. If I'm shooting fashion, I'll shoot it in front of nature. If I'm shooting details, I'll try and get them on rocks or concrete or something like that. Or a tree, like this weekend, even though it was raining, I was out there on this bloody boulder putting all the stuff on top of the natural raw materials from outside. So yeah, connection to nature, I'd say, is always the one thing that runs through. The presets help me to achieve consistency with my edit. And then in terms of shooting, because quite often it's not just the presets, it's the quality of the stuff that you're taking photos of as well, where I stand. So I prefer softer. I try and avoid harsh light whenever I can. I'll always prefer backlit. I'm really consistent with where I stand in relation to my subject and where the sun is, always trying to get fully backlit rather than side harsh light, which is unflattering. I always edit for the skin, so I shoot for the skin as well, meaning that I do avoid those side bits of light. So that is another way that I try and make sure my work is consistent, because I'm really, really in tune with where the light is. But yeah, the main thing is going to be the presets. And to be honest, over the years, I've launched 3 preset packs now, and I still use all of them, apart from the really, really old black and whites, which are very harsh now. Loved them when I first started, but now my edit has softened up a lot. But yeah, in terms of the colour edits, I use all of them still, depending on what's going on with the photos and the light and stuff. So how did you find your unique style and voice as a wedding photographer? I think I just decided, or maybe not decided, but became more in the knowledge that not everyone is going to like me. Like, I want everybody to love me and love my work and everything, but it's just not real life, is it? It's not personal. So I think I just became comfy with not being everybody's cup of tea. And then once I started to be comfier with not being everyone's cup of tea, it allowed me to just step into more of what makes me me. So I started to show off more of my music, which I'd always like kept to myself because I didn't want to be cringy. I think there was a lot that I had in my 20s of like not wanting to embrace who I am because it wasn't cool. Like, it's not cool to listen to techno, and it's not cool to watch Twilight 50 times a year and all of this stuff. But actually, that like cringy, icky stuff is the stuff that's since helped me to connect with my couples. So I think it's just knowing that your couples don't have to love every single thing about you or have that in common, but they just like knowing what you're about and what makes you tick. So just become comfy with who you are and just put it out into the world. Like, most of my couples won't like Twilight, but it doesn't matter. I think they love that I love it and it brings me joy. Just be who you are and the right people will connect with you. And it only takes that happening a few times for you to get the confidence to keep doing it. Can you share some tips for getting high-end planner-led weddings? Okay, so first thing is going to be your portfolio. If a couple is spending 200k plus on a wedding, they're not taking a risk on a photographer. Like, the photographer is the most tangible thing of everything. I built all of my initial portfolio on workshops and style shoots, which I organised myself. I did a few others that I attended, like Ben Wheeler's was incredible. I did a couple of Lark workshops, they were incredible. Yeah, I've gone to quite a few over the years to build up my portfolio, but ultimately now I use the Feywild workshops to do really insane, like more artful fashion-led content, because those are the kinds of weddings that I want to shoot. And my couples really, really, really love that content. Like, quite often the mood boards that I get sent, a lot of the images on the mood boards are from the workshops, and I don't think that's a problem because I'm not misleading anyone. They're credited. If I put them on the blog, there's a blurb about how they were a workshop. I don't think people feel misled. I think people just like seeing things that are a little bit different, especially if you've got those really high-end weddings. Like, the people that are paying for those weddings, they're probably really good at their job, and they respect the autonomy of you putting your own stamp on things, and they really connect with that from experience. In terms of planners, quite early on, I invested a lot of money in giving budget to planners within the workshops. So out of the ticket sales, I would allocate as much as I could to flowers and styling, give that to the planner and give them autonomy and not micromanage, step back, be really easy to work with. So a lot of the relationships that I have now, those were through the workshops as well. Another thing that I did, or that I still do all the time, is I recommend planners that I want to work with to my own couples. So if I've got a couple who are really cool, they've got a relatively big, decent budget, they're quite creative, and I think this is going to be a really good wedding, but they've not got a planner, I will really stress to them the benefits of having a planner. I talk about it on my stories a lot, and I will recommend either planners that I already know personally, or I will recommend planners that I have followed for a long time. I feel like their work is incredible. I might know somebody that knows them, so while I've checked, like, are they actually really nice to work with? And that's really important, because you don't want to be recommending people and then they're a nightmare for your client, and that shows badly on your brand. You only really want to recommend people that you've got that relationship with. But yeah, like some of the biggest weddings that I've ever done, I recommended the planner for that wedding, and then because they then got that wedding with me, they're now recommending me for more weddings, because that's how that relationship was established. So recommend suppliers that you love and that you want to work with to your couples. If you know that they're like really hardworking, they pass the vibe check, that's a really good way of expanding your network, and people really appreciate the referrals. Right, my client has now arrived, so I'm going to go. Thank you so much for your questions. I will do another one of these soon. Thank you so much for being here.